Thank you, Mimi. Thank you, everybody who attended here. Of course, you're kind of a captive audience, but whatever, I'll overlook that point. Hello, I'm Zach Foster. I am incredibly glad to be here today to tell you guys about some of the biggest heroes in the world. Now, I just want to drive a couple of things home. I just want to point out some things to you. We all showed up today to talk about how much we love freedom. We all showed up today to get together in a room to talk about politics. Some of you even traveled here. Larry, Alex, Nick. You guys traveled here. I traveled here too from Nevada. I'm a member of the Nevada Party. And you notice we had zero problems about it. Some of you guys are even running for office. I know because you've talked about it. Now, you're running for office. What does that mean when you say I'm running for office? Does that mean I'm going to take my part in the political process? No, that's bullshit. When you say I am running for office, you are making a public declaration that whatever incumbent official you have targeted, you are targeting that person because his performance is unsatisfactory and you have deemed it necessary to take away that person's job and their political power and their salary, which is financed by the American taxpayer. You have decided publicly you are going to take that away from him. And for the most part, you are going to have no problems. Yeah, sure, maybe the mayor is going to be a dick for a while. If he's tight with the police department, maybe the deputies are going to pull you over a little bit more often. You know, it comes with the territory. But the point is, nobody has told you, Larry Sharp, if you travel to the California Libertarian Convention, we will kick your fucking ass and put you under arrest. Nick, Alex, nobody else had that problem. I did not have that problem. Now, let me tell you about some of my friends over in Havana, and let me tell you how I got involved with these Cuban libertarians, because yes, we have libertarians, capital L libertarians, behind the Iron Curtain. People who are talking about Mises and Hayek and Henry Hazlitt and Rothbard and talking about anti-war, talking against the empire. We are so used to talking against the U.S. empire. Well, we got people in Havana speaking out against the Castro empire. We have people in Havana who are out protesting over recent weekends saying we are Cuban parents and we do not want our Cuban sons and daughters to go be deployed to Venezuela where they're going to oppress people. So, my journey with the Libertarians of Cuba and Venezuela started back in February of 2017. A lot of people don't know this, but I speak Spanish fluently. My mother's side of the family is Mexican, while my dad's from North Carolina, so I speak English, Spanish, and hillbilly fluently, multi-talented. So in February 2017, I was cruising through some Spanish language Facebook groups, libertarian groups on Facebook, and I wanted to hang out and do some activism remotely with Latin American libertarians because I was so mad at American libertarians after 2016. I was so mad after the was that a lot of people who complained about how the LP is not doing anything were themselves not doing anything, and then at the last minute, a lot of people gave into this ridiculous panic of, well, maybe Trump is a lesser evil because Hillary's gonna, bring us to the brink of World War III. And now we've got this situation where we've got the Cubans and the Chinese and the Russians and Hezbollah sitting over there in Venezuela, and we got Americans in Colombia, and we got Putin up in the ante, and we've got John Bolton probably, talking to his Ouija board, whispering to President Trump about how we should invade Venezuela and North Korea and Iran at the same time and all that stuff. So you saw how well that worked out. But anyway, that's what I was doing, trying to talk to Latin American libertarians. I said, I want people who take this seriously. And then I got hit up by this random guy in Miami, this Cuban guy in Miami who said, help me, my friends back in Cuba have been arrested, we're libertarians. And I said, what the hell is this? And the guy was talking to me in Spanish, and I started having a conversation with him. Well, come to find out, this guy was a recent refugee. He had recently arrived in Miami. He only spoke Spanish, which is why he was desperately looking for any Spanish speaker, and he found me. But his story, we'll just call him Mr. Garcia because I'm going to protect his anonymity. Mr. Garcia is one of the co-founders of the Cuban Anarcho-Capitalist Club and the Mises Cuba Book Club back in 2015 in Havana. It was just a room full of a few people just in a house with some books that somebody else sent them from Spain. And then one night in February, state security started harassing some of our libertarians down there. Now, state security, it's like the FBI, but it's dedicated almost entirely to policing your politics. They are the political police. So Cuba is a very Orwellian society.
but it's very third world, so they don't have money to put cameras everywhere. They don't have money to watch you electronically. So what they'll do is they'll just have guys posted on a street corner, on a city block, you know, watching all the houses where they know a dissident lives. So that's what they do down there. Now, he started this book club. A couple of people showed up to a meeting one night. They were going to discuss Rothbard's The Ethics of Liberty. And two gentlemen by the names of Ubaldo Herrera and Manuel Velasquez were approached by plainclothes state security officers who demanded that they show ID. Well, the libertarians said, "You're not in uniform. Show me a badge, and then we'll show you ID." So next thing you know, those guys disappeared. And then they came back a half hour later with the National Revolutionary Police. And that was our first two libertarian political prisoners. So for the high crime of reading the wrong books, Ubaldo Herrera got sentenced to 7 years in a labor prison, and Manuel Velasquez got sentenced to 1 year. Manuel is out because he already did his year, but Ubaldo is still sitting there in a labor prison where the political prisoners are mixed in with the common criminals, and you know, riots happen and people get killed. So anyway, I got involved with these people back in February 2017, and we were just a small book club. The only thing we could really do was drum up outrage, some international outrage. Let's get the news out there. Because if we can at least get these libertarians' names in the news, then they'll be a little bit more protected. So we started doing that. And then state security started turning the repression up even more. They started kidnapping these people. Not just like detaining them and taking them back to jail and kicking their ass, which like that's become a kind of a common theme. Yeah, I don't even talk about that anymore because it's so common. But they will start doing things like, after beating the crap out of somebody with a wooden or a metal baton, they would drive them 25 miles to the outskirts of town, drop them off, and then tell them, if you keep doing politics, we're going to kill you. So one of the co-founders of the Cuban Libertarian Party is a very brave gentleman by the name of Nelson Rodriguez Chartrand. He was a co-founder of Mises Cuba Book Club. We were talking one day on the WhatsApp, and we decided, you know what? If they're going to keep doing this heavy repression, you guys might as well just make it official. Make a libertarian party. And he said, all right, we're going to do that. So the Libertarian Party of Cuba was founded on May 7th, 2017, with just a room full of people in one house in Havana. Fast forward 2 years, we have got libertarians, capital L and small l, in 6 provinces across the island. And the Mises Cuba Book Club has expanded and grown into what is today the Mises Mambi Institute. Now, some of the questions are, well, why don't you just call it the Mises Cuba Institute? Well, Mr. Garcia, whose name we're protected on anonymity, when he was arrested a couple of years ago, they beat him so badly over the head. I've seen photos of just open cuts on the guy's head, gashes, blood running down his face. And remember, this is somebody whose high crime was telling people about Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. Just as a show of hands, how many of you have read Economics in One Lesson? How many of you have read Atlas Shrugged? How many of you have been beaten over the head with a police baton for the high crime of reading those books? Okay, because and in Cuba, that's a thing. That is a thing. I mean, we ought to make it a merit badge. I got the shit kicked out of me for reading Atlas Shrugged. That is absolutely a thing. So we started that political party. Anyway, Mr. Garcia, as I said, he lost his mind. Unfortunately, they took something away from him that he cannot get back. And he kind of disappeared, and he thought that state security had infiltrated his organization. And he kind of went and started his own little nonprofit with the Mises Cuba name. They don't really do anything, but just out of respect to everything that this man has done for freedom, I'm not going to chase that beef. I'm not going to chase that name, that brand. We are the Mises Mambi Institute of Cuba. The Mambis were the guerrilla warriors who actually fought for independence in the multiple wars of independence against Spain. So that's Cuba's independence of the American Minuteman. So just, the name, it's the equivalent of, the Mises Minuteman Institute, the Mises Mambi Institute. And we do action. I mean, yeah, we translate Murray Rothbard into Spanish. We translate Mises into Spanish, but we do political action. We do so much political action that the more deeply I got involved with the Cuban libertarians, the more I figured out exactly how deeply involved in Venezuela the Castro regime is. And I said, you know what? Since the Castro regime has been keeping the Maduro regime and the Hugo Chavez regime afloat for so long and exporting those same types of oppression to that country, well, it only made sense that the Cuban libertarians and their international team should also support the Venezuelan libertarians. So, fast forward, we have a libertarian movement in Venezuela. We also have a political party out there that a lot of the libertarians organize with. It's called Vente Venezuela. Some of the best people in the world are in that party. For example, Maria Oropesa, who was a 25-year-old lawyer, ex-college student. She was their national coordinator. She's been threatened multiple times by the police. We had another activist, Melanie Manjoud, 20 years old. She's a nursing student. She was detained first by the army and then by the militia and by civilian paramilitaries for the high crime of bringing medicine to a children's cancer ward in a hospital in Caracas. This was 2 months ago. Remember, the regime is trying to keep all humanitarian aid out. Her high crime was bringing medicine to children, and we had civilian paramilitaries pointing rifles in her face going, "Bitch, we're going to fucking kill you if you keep doing this shit." Literally, that's what they tell these people. For everything that you guys are doing and having no problems, our brothers in Cuba and Venezuela, they have automatic rifles pointed at them. As a matter of fact, the danger is so real that one of our brothers down there, Franklin Camargo, he was a first-year medical school student. His administrator at his college denounced him as a terrorist because he was leading protests against the regime. So the police were actually looking for him. He had to leave Venezuela for his life. His college, his whole life was completely uninterrupted. But he is not a victim. He is not behaving like a victim. He got himself to Miami. And within him being in Miami for 1 week, we already had him attending his first meeting of the Libertarian Party of Miami-Dade. And we are starting a new organization for Venezuelan exiles in the United States where they can integrate with the American libertarians, attend our meetings, our events, get political training, also get trained in the Second Amendment, because that's just something we take for granted. None of these Venezuelans who's living in the United States right now knows how to use a rifle, and that's something that we take for granted as citizens. We're going to teach them to do that too, but we're also going to attain political goals for the Cubans and Venezuelans. But the point that I've got to drive home, not only do you guys take so many things for granted, me too, but we need help, ladies and gentlemen. My nonprofit that we started, the Mises Mambi Institute, just the first quarter of 2019, we have already moved close to $2,000, almost all of which we have spent just buying food and medicine for key activists in Venezuela, key informants, just so that these libertarians and classical liberals do not die, because we have a lot of people who are in danger of dying. I'm just going to play a quick message real quick by a brother named Daniel Barrios. He's a libertarian. He was wounded by the army for the high crime of protesting. He was actually shot, and he got several open wounds from marble bullets back in 2014. And he's got a few words for you real quick. And then I'm going to wrap it up, I promise, Mimi.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Daniel Barrios. I'm from Caracas, Venezuela. And I would like to send this message across to you guys. I would like to cut to the chase and go straight to the point. My message is rather simple. Do not trust populism. Do not trust any socialist policies, because you will end up like us. When socialists started to destroy our country, everyone said that we wouldn't be like Cuba, that we wouldn't be another Cuba, and now here we are, worse than Cuba. And that's the thing that's the message I would like to say across to you guys. Don't take liberty and freedom for granted.
Now, he's warning about socialism and populism, and those are very, very deadly, alluring things. And it's not just the left. Remember, you've got all these Trumpligans running around. It's not just repeal Obamacare anymore. It's repeal and replace. Now, I'm going to leave you, ladies and gentlemen, with a note. We cannot do this alone. We spent close to $7 grand last year. First quarter this year, we spent almost $2 grand. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if you can make a donation to this nonprofit, you can go directly to our PayPal and make a donation at www.cubanlibertarians.org. Even if you don't have a PayPal account, you can make a credit card payment. Or if you go to patreon.com/MOVLIBVZLA, you can directly become a patron of the Venezuelan LP. So, CubanLibertarians.org. Go there to donate to get food and money to Cubans and Venezuelans. Patreon.com/MOVLIBVZLA to help out the Venezuelan LP. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and for your solidarity. Everything I do here today is on behalf of our brothers in Cuba and Venezuela. This is for them, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.